Welcome into the Beat Sessions, your place for all things music. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Let's lead things off for the week of September 6th with a legend. Let's talk about this new record from David Gilmour entitled Luck and Strange. This is his fifth solo outing and his follow-up to 2015's Rattle That Lock, one of the greatest to ever do it. I think the only person that might dispute that is Roger Waters, but I digress. So thrilled to have this man still with us, still making incredible music and doing it with a really fun cast of characters around him, his family, and a number of other great guest appearances that I'm really excited to dig into that and talk about it. But I want to talk about the man himself first. Such a signature style. And you listen to him talk about the development of the kind of guitar player that he became, and he's so humble about it. He talks about go out and copy people. He's like, that's what I did. And eventually you will get good enough and you'll start blending styles. And eventually you'll have this own unique thing if you keep playing long enough and you have the desire. There's one publication that talks about how he's the link between Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen. And I disagree with that. Not to say that, David is not that talented, but his style is different. I don't think that he has the technical prowess that both of those guys had. But what David does have is this precision and this ability to fill up space so beautifully with these sonorous notes. And he doesn't waste anything. And some people might not necessarily be thrilled with his playing because it is so precise, but I think it's one of those things that anytime you listen to him on record, and especially when you see him live, it's just like, how can you not love what he's doing, the tone of his guitar, whatever instrument that he's playing. I know it's super random, but I seriously, I think of drummer Abe Cunningham, from the Deftones, as far as like the crisp sound of his drums. That is what David's guitar playing reminds me of. And so I absolutely have loved the man from the moment that I've listened to him. I would argue that early on, Dark Side of the Moon, and it's pretty wild because he talks about this new project, Luck and Strange, being some of the best stuff that he's done since Dark Side. Aside from working with his family, he brought in a kind of different cast of musicians that he felt wouldn't necessarily reflect kind of a Pink Floyd style. And so this album, it is a bold statement, but going back to Dark Side of the Moon, I think that David is the guy that when you listen to a record like that, when you listen to, basically anything leading into The Wall. I feel like The Wall is when Roger started to take over more with the concept and the story and the writing. And he's the one that's always like, it's all about the writing. David's been the guy it's all about the music. I would argue that neither of these guys really ever needed each other, but man, when they were on the same page working together, it's magical, right? There are very few duos to ever come together and I think challenge each other and come from kind of like different sides and be able to blend those and just, truly when they were at the height of their, collaborative efforts, they really were great. I think that, this new record is a brilliant 9 songs. If you stream it, it's got Yes, I Have Ghost, which features his daughter. Pretty cool song there. And then the title track actually comes from a jam that went down with Richard Wright. And it went down in 2007, the year before he died, in David's barn. And so vinyl pleasing this thing right now, I would recommend, if you have the means, the vinyl package is going to include that second disc with lots of extra songs, but you're going to get that live version of Luck and Strange, which is like 13 minutes long, and it's so cool to listen to. And final thing I want to say, producer Charlie Andrew is, listening to David talk about his influence and how the guy had a very interesting, like, subtle lack of respect for where David had been and what he'd done, and how David loved that because, again, pushing him to do something different creatively after all these years. Definitely could see how it could be easy to get stuck in ruts with, same production people, same players, et cetera, et cetera. So it's cool to see him step back and let everybody do the writing from a lyrical standpoint. Again, that's not something that really has it's important, but I don't think it meant to him what it did to Roger Waters, if that makes sense. So I'm really excited to jump into this track list. It kicks off with Black Cat. You get this cool little intro, ambient with slow fade in, simple piano riff, and David just, is using his guitar to play around that. It's a fun way to lead this thing off. Your title track comes second. Great to have Richard Wright performing. You know what? I couldn't find actually if that's the actual recording. I don't know if someone came in and did that, but I do believe it is him, and they were able to just get that into the studio. It's 2024. It's the future, so I'm almost positive that is actually his playing that's featured on that track. I love that. You get that signature guitar play, opening this thing up. That blues drive. It's also the thing that I love about Gilmour's playing is that I just love how blues driven what he does is. Simple percussion complements nicely. The bass has this soft little bounce, develops this unique groove. It's a lovely song. It really is a cool piece of work. The Piper's Call, your third track, Americana inspired, and just beautiful harmonies that are working on this track, and pretty much throughout the record, all of the harmonies that he's working with Pauly are quite exceptional. And I really just dig the ukulele. There's this like Spanish style guitar that's at play on this track, a little bit of world percussion, balanced with your, traditional kind of like Western drum set. And the chorus just pops with this nice string element. And I just love the way that the coda takes this unique turn and rocks out. The Piper's Call. I mean, there's nothing clearly when you read the lyrics, but it's hard not to think of Syd Barrett a little bit when you think about this band's debut record. And you think about the gravity of the lyrics that Pauly and a few other people, their kids wrote some lyrics, but it's mostly Pauly, but dealing a lot with death and kind of overcoming the gravity of that. And there's certainly moments where he could have been talking about Syd, he could be talking about a lot of things, but definitely working with some slightly heavy territory from a lyrical standpoint on this record. Your fourth song, A Single Spark, is going to lead off with some soft percussion. Really interesting production on that percussion. It's light, simple guitar elements, lush strings that are going to work in after first verse, and great harmonies again on this track. The guitar hits nicely halfway in just for a big jam into the coda, and I love that. Strings are going to fill in nicely to complement on that as well. Really nicely done. Vita Brevis is your fifth track. Got this interlude with this kind of like harp-like guitar play. And then you have a cover song, Between 2 Points. The Montgolfier brothers. I've never heard of them, and David talks about this song, and he's like, I thought more people knew this song, but apparently before he released this cover, the original only had like 25,000 hits or something like that. I'd never heard of it. Not embarrassed to admit that. If some of you had, feel free to throw out more information about the band, because I didn't dig too much into them. I was focused a little more on David. But you got this simple acoustic string element that works in and out. I love the vocal. Drums work in on this track brilliantly, and more of that kind of like harp-like guitar play. And actually, I think it might be a harp, because this song does feature Romany, I believe, is how you say her name, and I know she does play, so that actually could be the harp. It could be. Could actually be that instrument. It's so tough to tell with music production these days. More great solo work to finish, though. I love that. Dark and Velvet Nights song is awesome. It's got that kind of just like shock rock value to it a little bit. Think of I Put a Spell on You and Hal and J. Hawkins. It's like, it's got that kind of just like spooky feel to it. I love the vibe. You're going to get just the intro, just it opens up with that feel like this is going to be just one of those tracks, and it delivers spooky blues feel, interesting string driven breakdown that lightens things up in the middle of this song, but then it gets back to that kind of that moody spooky feel, and really nicely done. Sings is your penultimate track. Simple textures, light percussion to open on this. Great vocal from David, and a great guitar element a minute in as well that I really enjoyed. Chorus finds this Beatlesque character, which I found to be pretty unique. Starts to fade with about 2 minutes left. Does that for about 30 seconds, and then they bring it back Going to fill it out with the coda to jam to end. And then Scattered is your final track if you're buying just the regular wax, which there's nothing wrong with that because it's still a great product. Soft bass drum and vocal to open, string and synth textures on this thing built in to create this really ominous feel. I love the way that felt in this song. Simple guitar riff that hits. The bass has this minimal but assertive drive. Really well done there. And the song descends into chaos at this, I'd say, maybe a couple minutes in, but then it finds itself with that simple bass element, works back into the song, and cool guitar riff leads to some solid solo work. Really just excellent way to finish what is a fantastic album from David Gilmour. I don't know if I'm going to call it better than Dark Side of the Moon or even go there. It's really interesting to hear him say that. But I will say that it's certainly a vinyl please, and I'm going to give it a 7.4 out of 10. Really a lot of excellent guitar work. The production there, I think, is spot on and worth a listen to kick off your weekend. Hope you enjoy this record. Hope you find this review helpful as well. Please like this video and share it. Subscribe to the channel. Do all the things to help me blow this project up in 2024. And stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.